Nigeria's End Bad Governance protest, which erupted on August 1, 2024, was a manifestation of deep-seated frustrations amongst its citizens. The protest was driven by multiple factors, including the high cost of living, a hike in fuel price, worsening economic conditions, and dissatisfaction with government policies. The protest is following a touch of police response from the police touch and a call for a pause by President Bola Tinubu in his presidential address, which critics have actually depicted as empty, not holding water. Activists, on the other hand, had originally called for a 10 days of rage in social media messages after data showed annual inflation hit a 28-year high by 34.19% in June. Yet, rallied under the End Bad Governance hashtag, demanding not just economic relief, also transparency, accountability, and good governance. We have public affairs analyst and media strategist Dr. Jide Johnson, who will be sharing his view with us on Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. Join us in the next phase of the show. We have Dr. Jide Johnson, public affairs analyst and media strategist. You're welcome to the show, Doctor.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, evidently, I want to believe you had a hassle-free weekend, and likewise, with the whole protest going on, I believe that you should actually be well informed concerning the happenings. Now, from a hike in fuel price, worsening economic conditions, and dissatisfactions with government policies, you will agree that the cost of living has actually made living costly for the Nigerian people. Now, briefly, how would you describe the End Bad Governance protest? Do you see a likely extension or resurgence of the protest after the lean back for 10 days?
I think that is a success. It's a success in the sense that the consciousness of Nigerians have been awakened. There's a clear-cut awareness with respect to Nigerians making a demand for a change in terms of their standard of living and the cost of living, which also a rude awakening to the government, because the government felt, despite the attempt by government and its agencies to prevent the protest from happening using whatever means, clandestine, using other critical stakeholders like the Nigerian Labour Congress, National Association of Nigerian Students, traditional rulers, and then religious leaders appealing to Nigeria not to protest but to be patient with government. Despite all this plea, the End Bad Governance people still went about their protest in order to drive home the point. And I'm sure we have never seen any kind of protest so massive, so organic, without any clear-cut leader for that protest being nationwide in its outlook in recent times. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a successful protest because both state, local, and federal government responded to the needs and the cries of the protesters.
Okay, that's quite extensive or explanatory, let me put it that way, concerning the protest. But as at 4 years ago, we had a major protest, which was the EndSARS protest. Now, historically speaking, Nigeria has had its fair share of episodial or seasonal protests. Why? Because of grievances which might be hitting hard on the people. Now, on a comparative analysis, the End Bad Governance protest and the EndSARS protest of 2020, they actually shared some similarities, but also had distinct differences. These distinctive differences, I beg your pardon, I will be underscoring them one after the other. Number one, from triggering issues. Secondly, demands. Thirdly, participation. Government response, which is actually the fourth one. And the fifth one, which is the last, the foreign involvement. Let's have your opinion on triggering issues here, because to begin with, the triggering issues, EndSARS was sparked by brutality, focusing particularly on disbandment of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which is known as SARS. Now, in contrast, the End Bad Governance protest was driven by a broader economic issue based on grievances. Now, juxtaposingly side by side, how will these protests, how will you look at it now from these triggering perspectives?
Well, the NSAS, you've explained it in your monologue. The NSAS protest was about police brutality, and victimization of young Nigerians by the police and the agencies of security agents. I think attention was drawn to that, and then the special anti-robbery squad was dissolved. But as that stopped harassment of young Nigerians, it hasn't stopped it. All you just need to do is just to look out what police do. I have a teenage son. I have a young son who is just 22 years old. He's always scared of not going out without his ID card, and because every time you see police on the road, what do? They stop NAPEP, they stop cars. Anytime they see young people, they still stop them, they still harass them. So some level of harassment is still in place when it comes to the issue of harassment of youth and with respect to end police brutality. It's just that the level of brutality has reduced considerably, but the harassment is still there. All you just need to be a young chap, and then they just stop either on the bike or inside the car or whatever is still going on. So those issues still need to be attended to. That's the focus. To a large extent, they achieve a noble objective in dissolving that special anti-robbery squad, and at the same time, we still drive through Lekki toll gate without paying any toll. I think that's an achievement also, because that toll has not been reinstated, and I hope it will not be reinstated in the near future. So if you look at that from that narrow perspective, it was successful. Now, if you look at the issue of governance, you see the economic problem we have cannot be solved at one fell swoop. There's no magic wand to solve the economic problem just within a short time. Our economic problem requires a long-term solution. And the first step is to raise the consciousness and awareness of government to the use and cries of Nigerians. And I think that has been raised. Nigerians have become more conscious, they have become more proactive, they have become more demanding in asking government and demanding government to bring about a change in the economic fortunes. I'm sure next year, in the budgetary allocation of the National Assembly, they are not going to make budgetary allocations for their expensive lifestyle. I'm not too sure that they are going to make budgetary allocation for buying cars for themselves or buying presidential jet or presidential yacht, because Nigerians have become more conscious and more interested in what happens with the people that govern them. So I think when you look at both, the end bad governance is meant to raise the consciousness of Nigerians and the Nigerian government to the need to attend to the economic challenges Nigerians are facing. And I can tell you for a fact that it's a rude awakening to those that are in government, because they never believed that it could be as successful as it was. And I'm sure in their own private corner, they are looking at how to address some of the salient issues that were raised by the end bad governance protest. And I can tell you, in the near future, you're going to see various attempts by government, either through one form of reform or the other, in terms of restructuring this type of government that we have, the type of structure of government that we have, so as to ensure that the Nigerian people get deliverables of democracy. Because we seem to have too much power at the center, too much resources at the center, at the detriment of the subnational government, particularly the local government. It is as a result of the failure of the local government to perform its core function. That's why we've seen a lot of complaints, because the local government exists as an appendage of the state government. The local government, which is meant to be the grassroots government, which is meant to give the people at the grassroots some semblance of participation, some semblance of involvement, and some semblance of enjoying the deliverables of democracy. They are not in existence, non-existent. So, but with the consciousness being raised concerning this bad governance protest, I can tell you that we begin to look at the structure of government that we have in order for us to ensure that the people at the local level have a say in who governs them and have a say in how they are governed.
Okay, that was extensively explanatory. I could take one word from there, and that is consciousness. Maybe I might add something there, sir. Also, awareness, as compared to the 90s, where people had to be answerable to the barrel or probably the boots of the military regime, compared to now, where people are now consciously aware, courtesy the cable TVs we have now, which were luxuries back then in the 90s, and also now, as we speak now, social media. Now, focusing on the second issue comparatively, now we're talking about demands. While the NSAS demanded police reform and accountability, how accountable now the government is concerning the police force now, we do not know. The End Bad Governance on its own protest included calls for economic relief, which you also mentioned in the first phase for regime change. Now, both protests came under the APC administrations, which is the Buhari administration, and currently now, as we speak now, the Tinubu administration, respectively. Will it be in line to say that the parties are developing a trend of producing indifferent chief executives who are out of touch with the reality of Nigeria?
I think to a large extent, it's not peculiar to the party. I think that the political class, because in Nigeria there are no political parties. You just have political dealers that are just looking for platform to get elected into office. And that's why you see them switching parties at every opportunity as long as their interest is well served. You want to tell me that Akpabio is APC or is it PDP? You want to tell me that the secretary to the federal government is it PDP or APC? That's George Akume, Senator George Akume. So you look at all these actors and players, they're either in PDP or APC or NNPP or APP or ACN or what have you. You might lose count of the political parties they belong to. The Nigerian political class is just a chameleon. He's just looking for any platform to get elected into office. The most popular platform, the less discredited platform, they jump ship to that platform and they get elected into. Just look at those that use the Labour Party to get elected into the National Assembly, to get elected into the State House of Assembly. What have they done? Some of them have joined ship. They've joined ship to join the ruling party. So when people talk about political parties and what have you, they are just the same. They can be PDP in the morning and APC in the night, or APC in the night and PDP in the morning. So there's no clear-cut political ideology. What is the ideology of this political party except to win election and allocate public resources to themselves and their cronies and their friends? So when we talk about political party in Nigeria, there's no distinction. So we just talk about, we pull all of them together and put them in the political class. And the question we need to ask is, the political class, are they there in office to serve the interest of the public or to serve their own interest and the narrow interest of their sponsors or their cronies? What I can say, my conclusion is very simple. The political class exists to serve their own interest. And whatever platform they believe is the best platform for them to serve their interest is what they jump to. And that's why they are insensitive. They are insensitive to the use and the cries of the people. One, in the sense that, where did their mandate come from? Did their mandate come from the ballot boxes, or their mandate comes from the courts? In most cases, their mandate comes from the court. Because all you need to do is to ensure that you do whatever it means for INEC to declare you as the winner. And once INEC declares you as the winner, you go to the court, and then the court will also either reaffirm your victory, or the court will determine whether the opponent won the election. We saw what happened concerning 2023 election. We saw what happened concerning 2019 election. Yes. We saw what happened concerning 2015 election, 2011. We can go on and on and on. So what we have in Nigeria is not democracy. What we have is judiciocracy, because it's the judiciary that determines the actual winner of the election, not the ballot boxes and not the ballot paper. So the mandate does not come from the ballot. It does not come from the people. It comes from the court. And whatever the court, 6, 5, 7, 9, 3 men are those that determine the outcome of the election. So where does the sovereignty of these people come? Their sovereignty comes where would their loyalty lies. Their loyalty will lie from where their mandate comes from. And that's why the first thing that was done by the present administration when they were sworn in is to increase the salaries and wages of the judiciary and not that of the workers. So in very reason when we talk about the political parties or the insensitivity of the political class is as a result of the democratic structure which we have. One, the mandate does not come from the people. The mandate either comes from INEC or through ballot box snatching or through the courts. So they are not responsible to the people.
Okay.
So they can't be sensitive to the people.
Okay, you've made one key term there, which is judicracy, because it's a system whereby the judiciary actually determines the government of the people, if I may get you right. Now, a
Mm.
situation whereby an independent body, such as the judiciary now, is now meddling into politicization, it will be very, very sad, and the people will actually bear the brunt. That's what I want to get in sum total of all you said, sir. Moving on, actually, concerning the participation, also on a comparative note, both protests encountered violence, if you will agree. The NSAS protest was more characterized with an urban-centric feature. People called it a Yahoo Yahoo boy protest, if I may use that local parlance. Now, while the NBAD governance protest had a broader geographic impact, NSAS saw significant involvement from the youth and celebrities, whereas the NBAD governance protest included a more diverse demography from the young to the old, be it unskilled, semi-skilled, and also skilled individuals from all walks of life. Do we see a change in orientation whereby differences in ethnicity, age, and status is thrown into the trash bin and can make way for a Nigeria embarking on a resurrection, if I may call it that way?
Hunger is a unifier of people. Hunger does not know race, does not know tribe, does not know religion, does not know age. So hunger is a unifier. Hunger does not play identity politics. So hunger, an hungry man is an angry man. So hunger is a unifying factor that brought every Nigerian together, because there's no class distinction when it comes to hunger. At least the amount they sell fuel or the amount they sell groceries does not look at your tribe or your color or your religion before they determine what is sold to you or the prices that is given to you by the person selling the groceries. So it's very clear that you have a broader participation in the end-ban governance protest compared to the NSAS. If you look at the NSAS protest, those that were harassed by the police were young Nigerians, those that are in the creative industries, those that are in the Yahoo industry business which you spoke about, those that are also in the entertainment industry. All of these were the most affected by police harassment and whatever. So they were at the forefront of NSAS protest. But when you look at the end-ban governance protest, whether you are old, whether you are young, whether you are what have you, if you don't have anything, hunger will bring everybody together. And a lot of social advocates have advocated this over time, that we are sitting on the keg of gunpowder when you have a lot of our youth unemployed, when you have a lot of our youth hungry, when you have a lot of families that can't even enjoy 1 square meal, not to talk of 3 square meals in a day, then invariably you don't need any kind of motivational speaker. You don't need any kind of motivational talk for them to come to the street to protest. And that's why you see that this end-ban governor protest was organic. It was organic. And then when people say, oh, there was violence and the rest of it, it's very clear. An hungry man is an angry man. I think whether it was Fela Anikulapo Kuti or Bob Marley that sang the song, an hungry man cannot think straight.
You're very correct. Okay, I can get that. Just to reiterate, it was actually Fela Anikulapo Kuti who actually sang that song, sir. So just to get it straight. So people have addressed him as more of a prophet. And talking about the keg of gunpowder, it's actually sparking up, waiting for explosion, because I would say implosion has been going down the drain for the past 16 years or probably even 20 years. Now, on another note, on the part of the government, how have they actually reacted? Because the government's initial response to the NSAS was somewhat conciliatory. Are you there, sir?
I'm with you.
Okay, sir. The government's initial response to NSAS was somewhat conciliatory, but turned violent in the latter phase of the protest. Evidently, it was hijacked, no doubt about that, by hoodlums. We could see the streets of Lagos, just to mention a few sights and scenes from Lekki, Body Thomas, or Aderogusoya, where the likes of ShopRite were looted, goods scattered away. In the case of the NBAD governance protest, the government's response in the capital territory, Abuja, several parts of the country was forceful from the beginning. Now, coming to the Nigerian Constitution, Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution stipulates that every person shall be entitled to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particularly he or she may form or belong to any political party, trade union, or any other association for the protection of his or her interests. That is what is stipulated in 1999 Nigerian Constitution. Now, will it be right or in order to say that Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution has actually been violated? Because we could see via visuals, whether on TV stations or streaming platforms online, the vicious crackdown by security personnel, particularly by men of the Nigerian police force in northern Nigeria. What do you have to say about that, sir?
Well, it's very clear. The Constitution you quoted, the Nigerian Constitution has amended, makes exclusive provision for freedom of association, assembly, rightful assembly, lawful assembly, and the rest of it. It's within, even the Police Act makes a provision for the police to provide security for those that want to protest. I've always advocated this. The beauty of democracy is the consenting and dissenting voice. Majority will have their way, minority will have their say. Any culture that does not make room for dissent is not ready for growth. Even God, in his infinite wisdom, said, "Come, let us reason together." So a society is built on both consenting and dissenting voice. If you don't have tolerance, but it's very, very clear that the present administration, the level of present administration to tolerate dissent, I think is very, very thin. Look at the way the issue of Senator Ningi was treated concerning the budget padding, or look at the way Senator Ndume, who forewarned this government about what it tends to come with the end bad governance protest, when it said there is lack of access to the president and people that are close to the president are not telling him the truth. And as the chief whip in the Nigerian Senate, he does not even have access to the president. So, and you see the way he was treated. So it tells you that those that are in authority today, they are not ready to tolerate dissent. But if you are not ready to tolerate dissent, you are not ready to growth. Because in the beauty of democracy is for you to majority to have their way and minority to have their say. You can't stop people from giving expression to their views, to their opinions, and to their thoughts. That's the beauty of democracy. And there's a particular saying in my local dialect, a lot of us cannot sleep and put our heads together in one direction. At least some people, that's why there are three sides to a coin: the tail, the head, and the edges. So you can't have one side to all issues. You must be open to constructive criticism. Is the beauty, is what makes you, is what guides your decision making. Tough decisions are meant to be made when you are exposed to alternative contending views. But if you don't make that available, then you'll just be taking decisions based on psychophant point of view, and it might not be in the best interest of your government, it might not be in the best interest of the nation. So if you look at the way the police cracked down on protesters, particularly in Abuja and then some northern parts of the country, you begin to wonder whether we're in a democracy or we are still under military regime. And I've said it over time that we are actually not in a democracy. We are still under the vestiges of civilian administration. There's a difference between civilian administration and a democracy. What we have just seen is a transition from military regime to people in Agbada, but they still have those autocratic tendencies of the military administration.
Okay. If I may borrow the word of a one-time Senator Patrick Obayagbon, he said it's still a kakistomocratic affair, if you will agree. And definitely dissent will actually serve as a check and balance in any democratic setting, if I may get from that your explanation, Doctor. Now, lastly, before we come up now, on foreign involvement now concerning the whole protest, the End Bad Governance protest was characterized by unexplained appearances of the Russian flags, particularly in northern Nigeria, Kano and Kaduna to be specific. Now, this is a stark contrast, or a total distinct contrast to the absence of such flags during the EndSARS protest. Christopher Musa has actually...
During the EndSARS protest, people flew Nigerian flag and they were shot at. I do not approve of those Nigerians flying the Russian flag.
Okay.
Majority of those flying that flag, they don't even know what that communicates. They don't even know the flag of the country which it belongs to. I think that some nefarious, some elements with nefarious activity are just exploiting the ignorance of the people protesting in Kano and Kaduna, giving them the flag for them to fly, with the people flying the flag not knowing the implications of the flag they are flying. I think they were just exploited. The innocence of those protesters were exploited by some elements with nefarious activity. And I will enjoin the security agencies to go after those elements that want to that wants to exploit the gullibility or the innocence of Nigerians when they are making legitimate claim, and others are trying to bring in some political undertone to it with international implications. And if you have an understanding of what happened in Niger Republic with respect to what happened in Niger Republic, how the Russians have taken over the base that American built in Niger Republic, and you look at the affinity of northern Nigeria with Niger Republic, you have a clear understanding. And I think that the government needs to get to the bottom of it and ensure that those that are involved in that activity, they are brought to book, and such activity is not allowed to undermine the genuineness and the innocence of those that are protesting for their well-being, and not those that are interested in international politics.
Okay. Conclusively, to add up to what you say, frankly speaking, I must say it's a slap on Nigeria's territorial integrity and also, I would say, sovereignty. Well, thanks for gracing us with your presence on the show, Dr. Jide Johnson. It's been nice having you on board. We hope to have you from time to time.
Thank you for having me. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
And you too, sir. That was public affairs analyst and media strategist, Dr. Jide Johnson, with us on the show. Now, moving forward, the key lesson for both the government and the citizens is the need for open dialogue. Definitely, saliva would definitely have to be spilled for dialogue. But in often case scenarios, inks are always spilled down for the sake of signing treaties. Worst case scenarios, when it escalates, blood is always spilled in the case of war. And peaceful engagements to also address the nation's deep issues or deep-rooted issues should also be taken into cognizance. I'm Odiawa AI, and the show has been Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. You'll do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. Thanks for watching.